Welcome once again to the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. I'm your host, Minister Rodney Muhammad. I'm the student minister here in Philadelphia in the Delaware Valley, joined with my co-host, student minister Michael Muhammad from the city of Atlantic City, New Jersey. We welcome you all to another edition of the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. And we just want to remind you that going to NOI.org, that's NOI.org, you can get a mountain hill of information about the Nation of Islam, its publications, its message, the meetings, and many other events that are forthcoming. You can learn about the Final Call radio, the Final Call newspaper. You can be a digital subscriber as well as a subscriber getting the paper in one of your various cities. It should arrive there every Tuesday and Wednesday of every week. It is our weekly publication, The Final Call. So we invite you to always do that. We can be heard on YouTube and, of course, Facebook Live. You can pick up this broadcast. We're covering a myriad of issues. And I thank Brother Michael Muhammad and his wife and all those that do the technical work for setting up for the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. And, of course, it's the title of one of the books of one of the founders of the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois. And I'm always reminded, Brother Michael, that in the minister's early years as a boy, it was the writings of the NAACP that his mother put in front of him. Mm-hmm. And it began to impact on him even as a child. And of course, then seeing the magnificent picture of Marcus Garvey, all that made an impact on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to make the decision to go to college in the South to one of the HBCUs, which was Winston-Salem in North Carolina, because the Honorable Louis Farrakhan wanted to see something and experience something of what our people were going through there in the South. These were formative years of this great leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so I'm always happy to, show the trail that leads back to his boyhood and all the things that played a role in impacting and shaping him into the man that he is now, namely his crossing paths, meeting with, becoming a student of, a very foremost student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're talking about a very important subject today. Of course, in May of 1985, a terrible episode took place here in the city of Philadelphia, where a bomb was dropped on a Black family. And I think we hadn't seen that level, that scale of terror in these United States of America since 1921 in the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where also bombs were dropped on that section where Black folks lived in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And in 1985, this bomb dropped on this family, killed 11 members of the family. And of course, what really made the newspapers nationally was the fire spreading down Osage Avenue, destroying many of the homes. And for years, it's been one big controversy. And for the oppressive class in Philadelphia, it's a situation that won't go away and it's not going to go away. And recently, of course, remains were found. And so joining us tonight are people who are very, very close to this particular situation going on in the city of Philadelphia. Brother Michael Z. Muhammad, who is we like to call him our Delaware Valley Dispatch, but he's the writer for the Final Call newspaper for this area. And from time to time, when you read the newspaper, you'll see he's the author of the cover story for this magnificent publication. And also we have our student minister, Gregory Muhammad. He is a brother who knows what it's like to be behind the wall, incarcerated. He knows what oppression is like. He's experienced it firsthand. But with all of that, the wonderful spirit that God has blessed this brother with, we were blessed to have him in the city of Philadelphia, that was the city he returned to. He's been our prison reform minister here in the Delaware Valley, working directly with Minister Abdullah Muhammad out of Chicago. And of course, mass incarceration um, is a very important issue dating back to even immediate post-slavery periods during Reconstruction. The massive incarceration of Black men in particular, and pipelines set up today so that they can produce illiteracy on one end, and then from that end, from not being able to read and write in third grade, they're hoping to get you into that pipeline, and that pipeline should put you right behind a jail cell. And so he knows this well. He works very close with the family involved, the Move family. And so I'm not going to waste more time setting this up. These are brothers who are right on the front line. They're very close to this situation. They're in the story. You should start reading some of the accounts in the Final Call newspaper as early as this week. One of the things I wanted to say, Brother Michael, this bizarre twist, do we really have a full account now of all the events, or are there still unknown realities that we haven't come on yet?
I suspect that there are absolutely some unknown realities. I mean, this thing has more twists and turns than Lincoln Drive. You know, recently it came out that they discovered more remains that allegedly had been incinerated. A day later, it comes out that actually these remains were hidden in a box in the basement of a in the box of a basement in the health department. So we don't know. We don't know what the actual facts are.
Have you been able to talk to any of the people in the medical examiner's office about these findings? Apparently, they've been there the whole time.
Right. Yeah. At this point, I have not.
Okay. And we don't know who the Commissioner Farley, who recently resigned, we don't know who he gave the. I mean, everybody's talking in pronouns and nouns. He talked to an underling.
Right.
Who was the underling? Somebody received an instruction to cremate and dispose of those remains, and they chose not to obey that order.
Right.
And we still don't know who that person is. So Mayor Kenny,
I think the person has been named.
have they been named? Okay,
I think he has. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then, you know, I guess we'll have to see when the name comes up. I haven't seen him interviewed every account as early as this morning. We still didn't know. So, Brother Gregory, I wanted to ask you, how is the family? Because you work very close with them all the time on a myriad of issues.
Yes, sir. Well, I had a talk with Mike Africa Jr., and today he's the next generation of leadership out of the Move family in their struggle. And I informed him that I was going to be on your show, Souls of Black Folks.
Yeah.
He told me, we talked for a long period.
Yes, sir.
About the twists and turns, as Brother Michael referred to, right? And that they don't believe nothing that they're saying. They don't trust in nothing that they're saying. And he said that, well, the bottom line with us is accountability. You mentioned that that person's name be released yet. So this was Thursday when I talked to Brother Mike. And he told me, he said, well, brother, yeah, the bottom line is accountability. We want accountability. We want those responsible. There's nothing that they can really do to resolve this problem, of course. He said, but the only thing that we look at that may be of some resolve to us is to release Mumay Abu Jamal.
Well, now, Brother Michael, I noticed on the news that the family was asking for the remains that were still in the possession of these people. Has there been any progress with that? And if so, you know, how is that going? Is that likely at all?
The latest that I heard was the remains of the children, Tree Africa and the other little sister, had been released to a funeral home in Philadelphia. Now, whether MOVE has made an outreach effort to obtain those remains, I have not heard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, but one thing I want to say, Minister Rodney, I want to thank you very much for having me on your program.
Oh, yes, sir.
One. The other thing that I wanted to point out in my digging in terms of putting the stories together, it was apparent to me that you have to know the history of MOVE in order to understand where we're at today with the desecration of not only the children but the adult members as well. I mean, actually, if the story is ever told, it'd be enough to make a brass monkey cry. In terms of the devastation and disrespect and inhumanity that the MOVE people faced in this city. And the only thing they were doing was putting out a cry for a right to life and some environmental controls. But what I found, just real quick, is they use a strategy of disconnection. And what they do is they will disconnect the community from any organization or any people that are trying to create real constructive concrete change. And that's the strategy that they use very successfully in being able to treat the MOVE people in the manner that they used.
Well, yeah, I can see that. I know that I have been to a number of their rallies, but, you know, Brother Gregory coming out, he's been such a tremendous help to me and to the nation because, you know, he took on working with the MOVE family. And I can remember Brother Gregory helping us, and we raised the money to get the MOVE family to the Savior's Day, the last one that we had in person, actually. And I remember them turning in the airline tickets because they were looking at this COVID-19 a lot more than I was. And I said, man, right. It sort of spooked me when they said they're going to drive. They didn't trust this thing. And I said, you know, this might be something here. It's like we just got into Savior's Day and just got home, Brother Gregory, before. So you're talking to the generations of leadership. And I just wanted to ask you, Brother Michael, to close out one of the points you made. The remains from the 11 members of MOVE actually killed in that house on Osage Avenue. Isn't that, am I wrong? Is that evidence?
Well, allegedly, that's what they were keeping the remains for, in terms of having a DNA file down the road. But it's outrageous that they would keep the remains for such a 35-year period of time, which is just absolutely
it's unconscionable. I've been around the MOVE family. I know Brother Gregory has all the time. And we've been to so many rallies. They've been out with Minister Farrakhan several times when he's come to the city. We even all went down to see Mumia Abu-Jamal on death row. I visited him personally to get his tape for I think it was the Millions More movement or something, but we ended up playing it, Mumia Abu-Jamal from death row. But I had to secure that, so I had to go, Pam set it up so I could actually visit him and talk with him. But the minister went and talked with him, and we just never talked about the funeral of those MOVE family that died. I never knew the remains were in somebody else's hand. I never even thought about it. And now this is coming up, and I guess I'm saying, you know, why I wasn't even looking at when was the said funeral?
Yeah.
Did they have a service for those members?
One thing, most of the MOVE family was in jail
Yes,
at the time.
yes,
So,
except for Pam and Louise, right?
right. So they weren't really available, but allegedly the majority of the remains were handed over to family members, allegedly, and they were buried in Eden Cemetery in Delaware County.
Mhm.
But they
Oh,
but they kept the remains of many of the moved members. And that's what we're seeing now, the revelation that we're seeing now.
wow. You know, Brother Gregory, I'm looking at, I don't know if you've ever read the book Stolen Legacy by
Yes, sir.
George James, but you know, I'm just thinking about how they went in our graves, they looted our libraries, they took our knowledge, they just kept things from us. And this takes me back to that same kind of thing. And I know Move members have read history. God knows if John Africa were here, he'd certainly be running down a whole litany of crimes that these folks have done in the past 6,000 years. I could see him talking now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Brother Gregory? You've been with the family. I know you're playing a role ministerially to be a comforter, but at the same time, you know they want to fight for justice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you know, when we look at the fact that they had this box
Mm-hmm.
that was allegedly in the basement of the health department, if you can recall, they also, when current Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Kastner, went into office, he found 6 boxes of records, and the boxes were labeled Mumia. And these boxes contained evidence that the lawyers said would help his appeal, evidence that they've been looking for decades. So to see a parallel with these remains, now allegedly first they was incinerated, and now all of a sudden they appear in these boxes, and they were written, the box were written move. So as Brother Mike was saying, you know, Brother Gregory, it's like, what can we say? We know they've lied to us for hundreds of years. So why now? We asked that question, why now? He said, but we're not really surprised.
Yes, sir.
You know,
yes,
so
sir.
he expressed that you know, the movement continues.
Yeah.
The liberation of our people. You know, again, he said nothing they can do is going to make them feel that they are really doing something to remedy or resolve the problem. And they appreciate the mayor with his apology, right? But they said, we just don't trust the system. And they always had that position. I remember when we were incarcerated together at Holmesburg Prison, and I had a talk with Delbert Africa, and we were talking about the attack on the compound August 8th, 1978, which brought them to prison.
Oh,
and
yes.
Prior to them doing that, their whole mission was exposing the injustices that the system was inflicting upon the city at that time. And they would come out and go to certain spots in Center City, certain state buildings or whatever the problem was, they went there and they protest against it. So Mike is saying we have a long history of them accusing us of things. And when we keep the pressure on and we're able to expose it, they come back with this apology thing. But he said, but as you know, during the 78 incident, I wasn't born, but I know about what happened to my family. And Frank Rizzo didn't care nothing about the Move family. So
yeah, a policeman. Yeah, and I remember reading the history, Brother Michael. A policeman was killed in that incident on Powelton Avenue.
Right.
And I believe that the policeman was killed. I believe it was by another policeman's bullet, but they blamed it on Move.
That's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's accurate. According to reports, and I'm talking about qualified reports that I received, it was an absolute impossibility for Move to have shot that
To
cop.
have shot him.
Yeah.
But they blamed him nevertheless. So whatever policeman shot him, they never served a day in jail.
Right.
But it was friendly fire. I feel confident of that. So, so far we have, obviously the police were involved because they had to first get the remains for the medical examiner who is now involved. We have the health commissioner who was involved in giving a directive to not only cremate, but then dispose of. But then we got the University of Penn doing a study. Where did that come from, and who are they? Who else is involved in this thing?
Yeah, it's like a foxhole. It just goes deeper and deeper. But getting back to your point, Minister Rodney, the way that this thing came out was initially it was a discovery at the University of Pennsylvania that they had the remains of former Black slaves that they were studying.
Wow.
And when that revelation then led to the discovery of the Move children. So it's just.
Now, when I moved to Philadelphia, it obviously had taken place already in 1985. I came at the very end of 1991, but Ramona Africa was in prison when I moved here. So, and from what I learned, she would make no deals or anything. She did the full 7 years that they gave her, number one. But she was the survivor of what happened on Osage Avenue, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Gilbert Africa and others, they were in prison. They were part of a Move 9 that went to prison after the Powelton Avenue situation. Right. Okay. So Ramona was probably the only Move member that went to prison after what they did on Osage.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's terrible. I can't imagine what they charged her with when she didn't have a gun. The guns were being shot at them. That's why they couldn't get out of the fire. Every time they came out of the fire, they started shooting at them. It ran the Move family back into the fire to burn alive.
That's right.
And I believe John Africa was killed in that fire, who was the head of them. And so, obviously, some of us are down here with cash registers. We're just taking it up. This looks like a big lawsuit, if nothing else.
Yeah, but the Move members that I've talked to have stated that they're not interested in any kind of monetary settlement.
I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not.
What they're interested in is in justice. And with this whole call for the whole social justice movement, it's really showing the hypocrisy. During the press conference that the Move members held a couple of weeks ago, when this story first broke, what they asked for the press to tell the true story and history of what happened to Move. Of which the only paper that I read that came out with it was the Final Call.
That's right.
Also, what they asked for, and right in line with what Brother Gregory was talking about, is to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, which is logical. He's alive, he's with us. And if you're talking about social justice, then let's do the fair thing. I mean, let's at least give this brother a retrial. All of that fell on deaf ears. I mean, they may have been bringing it to moon, but I thought it was all very logical and made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think that the enemies of Move, which are really the enemies of justice for any oppressed people, I think they feel that they want to cut Move off from having any resources. And I say that because there was a time when there was a groundswell of support around the Mumia Abu-Jamal case because he was on death row, and many of these whites that used to come to the city, they came as a result of being against the death penalty. So Lynn Abraham, who was the DA then, and others, they felt strategically if they could get a judge to move Mumia off death row, this would then cause all the people that had come around Pan Africa to begin to dissipate and go somewhere else to keep fighting their cause for being against the death penalty, and saying no, Mumia is no longer the poster child for the death penalty because he's no longer on death row. And thereby they felt the financial support in that would begin to pull away from MOVE, and it would leave them isolated on an island without resources to really fight. And, you know, it's a doggone shame that when you're fighting oppression, you still have to work in the system of the oppressor to get resources to fight the doggone fight.
Right.
I mean, it's a reality. The Nation of Islam raises money to wage a campaign. We can't take the position we don't need any money, or we can't build. But I do know that this family is adamant about justice, and anybody that's going to fight with them, that's what you have to be about, because they certainly are not going to let justice take a back seat to money or anything, you know, and I appreciate that about them. Brother Michael, will the final call do another chronology of the MOVE family's history and how they came to be where they are and what the existing struggles still are? I'm saying by 1985, we've had 20, almost 30 years. You even have a new group of final call readers that aren't real familiar with, well, what happened? Who's the MOVE family? Who are they? How did they get started? You know, what happened? I was an FOI. I was in the final call building the day that the minister came on the rostrum and talked about what happened on Osage Avenue. I mean, he was furious, and I never forget Brother Collett was flanking him, and I could see the tears coming down Brother Collett's face uncontrollably while he was trying to hold post on the minister. Okay. And so this impacted them greatly, and the minister felt so strong that because other Black people, they couldn't make the MOVE family conform like other Black people, there was even Black support that was not necessarily behind MOVE at the time. You know, there were complaints and things like that. I mean, that's on the real. But I you know, but I think as years went on, people began to see this is a legitimate struggle. There's no legal right for any law enforcement agency to come on a family of unarmed people and drop a bomb on them and burn them alive. And, you know, I'm certainly hoping that the media who talks about remembering MOVE and the MOVE family, that they're not just, you know, hoping to be able to keep reporting it and then desensitize everybody to what's really happened to this family. Because there's a devaluation of our lives all the time.
Right. Yeah. In answer to your question, Brother Minister, in our upcoming edition, which will be out on Tuesday, we've done a commemorative piece on the organization. And in that piece, it gives a lot of the history and a lot of fact base in terms of what the movement has suffered through the years.
So, Brother Gregory, has Brother Abdullah been able to, I know you've been in touch with him, probably, has he been able to talk to any of the MOVE family?
Well, no, sir. I do most of the communication.
Okay.
And I transmit it back to him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I know that, you know, they were part of our Savior's Day. We've always tried to, I know you've worked very hard every Savior's Day to keep them involved as you all fight for justice and that.
I wanted to say, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Say, I think it was either 2015 or 2016, the 40th anniversary of the bombing, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did a message for the event because the Move family invited him to come and speak, but he was unable to come. So he did a audio message, and in that message, as you were speaking, you know, it brought it to my mind. In that message, he said that we will never forget what they've done to the Move family. And he said, a mayor, a black mayor, goes along with the bombing of the Move family, killing 11 people, including children. We could never forget this. And we will never stop fighting for justice. And he let the Move family know that the Nation of Islam will always be behind them. Just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate that. You know, because there are too many alliances that over the years, people break off from each other. And when they break off from each other in coalition form, then they don't support each other's causes anymore. But, you know, even if different organizations of people break apart, none of us should ever break apart from the great principle of justice.
That's right.
And we should all be able to see our way to, you know, justice for our people anywhere that we are. And of course, you know, I've been watching on the news some of the things. We had a program, so we weren't able to drive down on Spruce Street, where I think Pam and them were holding a demonstration down by the University of Penn,
right
near where they've been studying these remains. This is just a regular practice with the rule of it's a Eurocentric model to go in the graves of Black folks, to go in their libraries, to go in their government buildings, any of their secret places in their countries, to secure manuscripts, books, all manner of writings. Then you go in the graves and take artifacts and things like that. And you know, and these become very expensive museum pieces. But, you know, can you imagine the three of us or the four of us saying, let's go down tonight and let's dig up Lincoln's grave? And man, if they caught us doing that, that'd be a federal offense. We'd be on the news. I don't know how much time we would get, you know, digging up Abraham Lincoln's grave.
That's right.
But this is what they have done.
Right.
I mean, they've literally gone into a country and gone into grave sites, and they've taken these things as their own possession, they've monetized it because they put monetary value on this stuff.
Yes.
And you can steal this stuff from a museum and get untold dollars as they go back and take things. So this to me is no different. Taking the remains of some of us and studying it. They're not trying to solve a crime. I mean, the only criminals would be the people that dropped the bomb, the people that shot the guns, that made sure they would burn alive in there. They had it in for John Africa. They had it in for the Move family because of Powelton Avenue. They had it in for Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Right.
And what was going on with that situation with the policeman Faulkner, and it's gone on too long. So what? Obviously, the fight for Mumia continues, Brother Gregory, and his health has been central to the issue. And I think what we were trying to achieve was, as I had received a call from the minister, and he wanted Dr. Sophia Shabazz involved, and he wanted me to let the Move family know back then, he's ready to foot the hospital bill, whatever it is, for Mumia to have his own doctor look at him outside. But we're still at the point where the state people have to be the ones to supply Mumia with medical attention.
Right. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes,
wow.
his personal physician, Ricardo Alvarez, he's only given certain information pertaining to his health. He's not given full access to his health status.
Mm.
He said that the only treatment that Mumia could get is his freedom. So they won't let him do any kind of treatment with him or therapies or anything like that.
Wow. Yeah. So we've got a situation to keep alive. And I guess, Brother Michael, the Final Call newspaper is really the only one really, I mean, putting it in print for people to read of what's happening with Mumia in the true sense of the word.
Yeah, one of the few, that's for sure.
So I know on one of our programs, we're going to be talking with Ben Chavis about the National Black Newspapers Association or whatever. Do you know, Brother Michael, how many Black newspapers are left in the country?
Well, that's a good question. No, I do not, but I know it's dwindling.
It's dwindling.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are at the mercy of advertisement from power structures within the cities or the locales that they're in. So it's very hard for them to be mission driven when it comes to liberation of Black people at every level.
Yeah, that certainly is one of their dilemmas. I know in the past, in the distant past, they did have the luxury of relying on Black businesses that would advertise with them. But as Black businesses dwindle, they're at the mercy of these Caucasian businesses, and they're not getting the advertising revenue that they should be getting to stay afloat.
That's very hard, and it's very hard to do distribution, and that, of course, we're trying to do a lot of that, taking a lot of that upon ourselves, but it makes even our circulation small compared to the larger population of Black people that I feel would read our newspaper, but we don't have enough to go around.
Right.
I mean, I looked at the volume of what we're selling per issue, and when you look at the millions of Black people that are just in the South, I mean, the most Black people, they say 80% of Black people live in 5 states, and they're all Southern states. So we obviously are making a migration back toward the South. It's not as visible, but when they do the populations, the demographics, they find out that a lot of us are living down there. So there's a heavy concentration of us in these Southern states. So I guess the Move family, I'm figuring today's paper probably had a lot in it. I don't know how much is true, but you know, the Inquirer is talking to a lot of different people. Are they letting the Final Call talk to some of these people, Brother Michael?
I have to dig on my own.
I see.
In terms of my outreach efforts.
Your outreach efforts.
Yeah, as far as interviews and that type of thing. But you know, normally I'm pretty successful.
Now who is Move's attorney, Brother Gregory?
Attorney Leon Williams.
Oh, Leon Williams is doing it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And I know Leon Williams from when I was incarcerated. He has what is called Leon's Journal, and he reached out to the incarcerated family of those that have bettered their lives, and he wanted their stories to be told in the journal. I was one of the ones that was featured in almost every journal he put out.
Oh, all right.
Right. And he ran for district attorney.
He did.
Yes, twice.
He did. I was one of the only leaders in the city that endorsed him. We endorsed him in front of the Quadrangle building, actually at the anniversary of the Million Man March.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he did run. He ran against Lynn Abraham.
That's right.
And and she still managed to stay in that because there was a large part of Black support, I think, that Leon Williams couldn't get.
Right. And Leon,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. When I was at Greatest SCI Greatest before it became the new institution, Phoenix. He came in, I think, the second run for district attorney. And he was telling us that when he wins this office, he's going in and cleaning up all of the injustices that's been done in the district attorney's office. He said he's getting rid of everything. I mean, he's going to correct everything, and he's getting rid of all of those responsible for miscarriages of justice of the different Blacks, particularly, that goes before the court. And it made me think of what Larry Kastner has said when he ran, and he delivered on some of what he said.
Yes, he did.
And Leon Williams is just a good attorney.
He is.
Fair attorney. And when I was released, he told me to come to his office. And I went to his office and we sat down and talked. And he said, Gregory, if it wasn't for me being solo, I would hire you as my paralegal. So he's personable, and he has a good heart for his people.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. I wasn't sure if Michael Cord was doing some work with him. I know he's been writing about them fiercely in his column in the Philadelphia Tribune. And so I hope that keeps drumming up. But of course, it would be helpful if the major newspapers in Philadelphia that have a larger circulation would be, doing something. That's why I was hoping. I haven't read the Sunday paper today, but I was hoping that there was a chronology in there, because I still think there are white folks in this city that don't know what really happened.
Right. Yeah. Well, I have it in front of me. It's not much.
I see.
Right. Yeah.
They talked about Leon Williams in here as the attorney of the family, though. But it's not much. It's most of what we already know.
I see.
Yeah. I think again, they're trying to skirt the issue. From what I've read, there's some call for a new commission to come out to reinvestigate what happened on May 13th. There's some stories in terms of the trauma that the family has gone through, specifically the mothers who had lost children with the May 13th bombing, those types of things. But the issue that they're not discussing is the call from MOVE for the freedom of Mumia Abu Jamal. And, what I would like to see happen, Brother Minister, you talked earlier today in terms of reinvention and reinventing ourselves in our movement. I would love to see Mumia come to the fore of the social justice movement. I mean, given the kangaroo court that he was involved in, just the whole ludicrous nature of his conviction, he should be at the forefront of the social justice movement to get this man a trial and to get him out of jail. And also, too, let me just add, and again, piggybacking with Brother Gregory, every time I interview Sister Pam, she's always asking about Minister Farrakhan and her love for Minister Farrakhan and Moo's love for Minister Farrakhan. So I want to go on the record with that as well.
That's right.
I appreciate that.
And I'm glad. And if I may, I want to follow up on that, because if you're right, Brother Michael, and she calls me daily. And I didn't mention this in the beginning of the program, Minister Rodney, if I can mention it now.
Yes, sir.
I send personal reports to Minister Farrakhan on the current, developments pertaining to MOVE and the family. I emails it to him. And, sometimes I might get an article I see and even scan that and attach it to the email and send it to him. Okay. That's not to say that he don't already have the information, that he haven't already heard it, but that's the love that he has for our sister Pam Africa, that he want to know everything that's going on. So we keep him updated before the story get in the final call.
Oh man, that is so terrific. You know, a lot of people don't know that the minister, he reads every final call before he lets brother have that paper released.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
He was the first editor in chief of the paper. And so
That's correct.
I remember that. I remember getting my final calls in prison. I know I'm not going to get the address right. Damon Avenue.
Yeah, 94.
94. There it is. There it is.
That's
and
right.
my Savior's letter is from there, and the minister signed it.
Yeah, and Brother Abdullah was working in the basement there.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, those were the days. We used to secure that house all night, take shifts. And I can remember being out there from 3 in the morning till somewhere around 8 or 9 in the morning, almost every night of the week.
Yes, sir.
We had to make sure you had 24-hour security. And those just some humble days of the Final Call newspaper. I guess, we have an attorney, and if they have an attorney to look after them, I don't know if they're charging that there's a crime, but wouldn't Larry Krasner wouldn't his office have some interest in this until they find out it's not a case for the DA or something? I mean, if there's criminal, if there's some violation of the law in here, it seems like the DA's office would be involved. Maybe somebody is going to get arrested.
Right, I agree. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I mean, you're tampering with evidence. You've not notified the family of anything of the remains of their loved one, and that there must be some statute there. So I'm sure Leon Williams will. I feel confident he'll look into everything that this family has coming in the way of justice.
Yes, sir.
And that would be good. That would be good because everything started with the police. And I think, we're smart enough to know it was the police that were there that threatened the mayor at that time. And I think the minister would have given Mayor Wilson Good a break, he said, had he not come on the air and said he would do the same thing all over again.
He did. He said that.
The minister would have spared him, but, I had Brother Collett with me, and Collett lit into Wilson Good about his role that day. And Wilson Good didn't like it because it was in the paper the next day. So he called me. I let the minister know, but the minister let him take the heat from Brother Collett because he said, look, the man came out and said he'd do it all over again. And I think that was a bad point. He shared with me that he did not say that day, but I told him it just never got corrected. If he didn't say it, it should have been corrected in the place. We're always taught in Islam, make the correction in the same place and space that the mistake was made. And neither has been done if it is a mistake. So, but man, you all have been on the front line. You're taking care of business. I hope we could have you all back because obviously this story ain't over yet. We're probably dealing with part 1. And
right.
You all could agree to come back on our show again.
Well, Mr. Rodney, I thank you. I thank you for highlighting this painful period.
Yes, sir.
And I thank you. I just thank you, brother, for you putting this out so that our people can hear the other side, because it's two sides to every story. And the little that we've said should have some kind of impact on those who are listening, because they're not getting that out of the media.
Yeah, they're just not getting it out of the media. We need these kind of forums. We're hoping that programs like this can become the megaphone for the voiceless, so that there's a platform where people can come and at least get another whole perspective inside of the story, as you're saying. They can make the choice themselves, but it's hard to make the right choice when you don't have all the right facts.
Right.
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 Yeah, so that's it. But Brother Michael, I mean, we're looking forward to reading what you've covered in the final call as a sort of a commemorative piece, if I got you right.
That's correct.
And that means that we'll cover a lot about the Move family and who John Africa was. His name gets lost in all of this.
Right.
It does.
But his brilliance was just unnerving. The power structure of this city and his ability to break down and articulate our oppression, no matter what religion you were in or what organization you were in. He was able to effectively do that with a great deal of conviction. And, I can always tell a leader's impact because long after he's gone, look at the committed soldiers of Move.
Yeah.
I mean, they're called Move, but they haven't moved anywhere from the spot of standing up for justice. They're not moving from that point. And I appreciate them and I love them. Anyone that loves justice got to love the Move family.
Right.
Because they have shown that. And, as the minister said the day that terrible episode took place, just because somebody dresses different and doesn't look the way you look doesn't mean their life doesn't have value, that they don't have worth. And no one deserves to die the way they died there on Osage Avenue. So that's going to be a terrible spot and stain on the history of the city of Philadelphia. They can parade about everything they want to do on the 4th of July, but this is an ugly chapter.
Minister, I would like to interject real fast just to say to our listening audience, for those who are not familiar with the Move movement, you can go to onamove.com to learn more about the Move movement. It's onamove.com, ONAMOVE.com, to learn more about the Move movement and support the Move movement.
Oh man, that is terrific. I'm gonna go to that because then, it's good to be able to send people somewhere where they can begin to unravel a lot of this. Because Maureen Faulkner comes in about Mumia and she just gets all kind of press because she's with that FOP.
Right.
And they start dropping them heartthrob stories and about her husband being murdered. And I've always felt they didn't even want Mumia's case to come back up because you would have to uncover all the stuff that went on in that, what was that, the 35th or the 10th police district or 39th? 39th police district. And I know there was a great deal of corruption going on. It would put an ugly mark more than the stain that's already on Philadelphia policing.
That's right.
People of color. So look, Brother Michael Z. Muhammad, Brother Gregory Muhammad, our prison reform minister, and Michael Z., our great staff writer for the Final Call newspaper. We thank you all for being on.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to have you back.
I could just add one thing.
Yes, sir.
If I could just add one thing before we leave, and that is, I don't want our listeners, I don't want them to get lost in terms of the callousness and the disrespect that these remains were treated.
Yeah.
It's not like these remains were put in a display case and honored. They were placed in a shoebox on somebody's shelf. It's just unbelievable, the disrespect.
Yeah, and out of sight, out of mind.
That's right.
I know it was out of my mind. I had no idea that the remains were sitting there and they had been treated like this. And of course, this makes the family, I think, Brother Michael, they lived this terrible crime and episode, they live it all over again.
That's right.
With this going on.
Yeah.
That's right.
So God bless both of you. May God continue to put his hand on you in your great work and service to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam. And we'll be talking with you soon. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And for all of you out there, this is another edition of the Souls of Black Folks. Thank you very much.